Breen. B-R-E-E-N. I've been saying green.
Live from the mighty Veedverks airship, I'm Travis Lippert, CEO of Verks Unlimited Limited, better known as Veedverks.
And I'm Julie Richardson, Director of Commercialization and Promotions. And today we have with us Mark Breen with Leafbuyer.
How you doing?
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I have been super excited about this. I'm going to, and if you want to help us out, when you get the alert that we're going live, do a watch party on your page and share it with your friends while we're live. And they'll get notifications too.
Outstanding. I want to go over business real quick. We're going to be at the Oklahoma Cannabis Expo, October 18th through 20th. It's got a ton of good speakers there, good panelists. Just to name a few: Stacy Lynn from Cannability, Anne-Marie Doyle from Nuvolution, Danielle Cerruti de Espinel from Canna Latino, Hunter Garth from General Cannabis, I guess, is the company's with now, Bob Esquino from Incredibles, or Medically Correct. Amy Dawn Berlin-Hilterbrand is putting on the expo. She started American Medical Refugees, and she also started Talk to the 6630507 Hand. See, Ricardo Baca, Wendy Robbins, Karen Paul from the Marijuana Show, and that's just to name a few. And I'll be speaking or on a panel or something there too. So, October 18th through 20th, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma Cannabis Expo. Be there. All the cool kids are going to be there. So, there's that. What'd you do before cannabis?
Well, that's interesting. Before cannabis, I was, I started my career in the broadcasting world. So I worked in Chicago for a couple TV stations, WGN. Moved out to Colorado. Directed morning news, by the way. So it was one of those things where it was a natural progression. They were starting a morning show here in Denver, and I got a promotion, came out to Denver in 2000, and started directing the newscasts. So wasn't too much longer after doing that I kind of started looking at some of the sales reps, and I noticed that they were driving nice cars. So I said, maybe sales is something I'd want to get into. So I did a career change and within the same company and moved into sales. So for 14 years, from 2000, for the next 14 years, I was basically a sales rep. Nice. I worked at Channel 2. I also worked for KUSA, Channel 9, and CBS. So
interesting. So
that was my life previous to the cannabis world.
What was the most interesting thing that you did as part of the news business?
It's a fast-paced deal because when you're directing the newscast, you're basically having to conduct and work with probably 20 people, and they all have to do things at certain times, or it does things go wrong. So it was nice working with, we saw a lot of celebrities, met a lot of celebrities when they'd come into the studio. But it was just the fact that, it allowed me to understand from my current role right now as a COO to know how to manage people, because, you're dealing with 20 people and you need them all kind of to work together. And that kind of, to me, helped me lay the groundwork to what I'm currently doing now. So, but as far as interesting, I say a lot of the celebrities that I had met, so.
Celebrities are interesting. It's like, hey, I've seen you before on devices. So then you co-founded Leafbuyer. And can you tell us a little bit about just the process of starting this company? And it sounded like you were drawing stuff out on a whiteboard that might not have even been Leafbuyer.
Right.
Did you have some other ideas that you were working on?
Yeah, it was one of those things where, as people know, the way people get information, in the mid 2000s, smartphones started to become more popular. I was working in the news business. You saw newspapers starting to, decline. Television in general. People would just be able to get their information in a lot of different ways.
Right.
So I kind of looked at this, and through an acquaintance, through a friend, I was able to connect with our current CEO, Kurt. And we had conversations over. This happened over years. And I said, hey, listen, is television, where is it going to be in 10 years? Where is it going to be at in 15 years, right? Everyone's got a smartphone. And I knew through his background, he was an entrepreneur. He started one of the first web hosting companies in Florida in '95. And there was a couple of things that he looked at when he started that business, reoccurring business model, brand new industry. It was kind of the internet. People were at the time were kind of like this website thing. Is this a fad, right? Back in those days. And so, he built a successful business, sold that, and really didn't work much at that. But we became friends, and, we started meeting in his basement and started whiteboarding different ideas of what we could do if there was ever an opportunity.
Right.
And, you kind of go down this path, and you are thinking about everything. You're thinking about, we were looking in the medical field. We were looking at what's the new hot thing out there. So I had no intentions when we started this that cannabis would even be on the radar. And we were right. Really what we were looking for is the scalability, to have a business that's scalable, something that has reoccurring revenue, and something that at the end of the day, we don't have to have a ton of inventory and product on hand and have a ton of overhead, right? And so we kept looking at ideas, and we'd always come up with maybe two of the three things. And the other thing we were looking at is, you don't want to get into an industry or start a business in an industry that's not growing, right? So at the end of the day, we were kind of stuck, and this happened over like a 2-year period. And then Amendment 64 came along, which was the legalization of marijuana in Colorado, and we kind of looked at that and we said, hey, there's an opportunity with that. So we went to a lot of the task force meetings, started to understand. We went to a few shops. We looked, we actually looked at purchasing a couple dispensaries and maybe starting on that side. But we, again, quickly realized that, it's a little bit difficult on that side with the regulations. And then, you've got the product and touching the plant. So we kind of looked at ideas that would fit our skill set a little better. I come from a marketing sales background. Our CEO comes from more of the business side, having run businesses before. And then through another friend, we had a CTO partner that was more in the technology space that ran his own company. And, he used to work for Weed Maps. He started Weed Maps when they first started. He was one of the founding developers. So we kind of started thinking that there might be something here, but maybe not purchasing a dispensary, but actually launching something that consumers could use to find what they're looking for and that kind of thing. So that's really how it all started. You kind of start thinking of ideas, and then something kind of pops up like Amendment 64, and we say, wow, this is a growing industry. And at the time, that was 2014, and we see where that's come to today.
So I'm going to pull up the Leafbuyer website in the background. Sorry, Julie, I'm skipping all your questions. I'm going straight to...
Oh, no. That's just a rough draft. I mean, there's so many shows that we don't go by all the questions. Because we have so many interesting people on, and we can go off on a tangent and it just be way more better than any question I could come up with.
So leafbuyer.com. And you started as, you said, a deals site, right? Basically.
Right. So when we came up with this idea, and the site's gone through a lot of different versions and has grown into what it is now. But really, when we set out to do this, we understood there was Weed Maps out there, and there was Leafly, and there were some other sites that did some similar things. But the one thing we kind of started running into with consumers when we were doing some research is that consumers, it's an expensive product. This is something where, if you partake, it costs quite a bit of money, and, everybody wants to save, no matter what industry you're in, everybody wants to save a little money sometimes. And so from the consumer side, we wanted to attract people, consumers that might want to shop in a sense ahead of time. Also, with the way the laws are and the regulations are, some of the dispensaries aren't easy to find. They're kind of tucked behind, behind industrial buildings. And plus with the advertising restrictions, it's very difficult for, a dispensary or even some product companies of how do you advertise? How do you get your message in front of a targeted audience, right? And that's one of the key things that we can bring to the table is targeted. When you buy a billboard on the street, it looks good, it's big, it's look at me, but how many cannabis consumers or somebody that's interested in using that product actually might know what that even is? So there's a lot of what we call waste in that, right? It's great. We've done billboards before in the past. It's kind of something that you have to add to the mix. But really what we want to do is make sure we're targeting people who are interested in the product. They understand, because when people come to the site, they're probably going to make a purchase within probably 48 hours, meaning they're getting low on product, they're interested, and they just kind of want to see who's out there and what people have, and then they can act on that and make a purchase. So,
do people look for particular strains more than they like? There's two things. One is convenience to me, and then two, a lot of times I'm looking around for, who's got like Rosetta Stone? Who's got Rosetta Stone right now? Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the things that we provide, where we can allow consumers to, we have access to their POS system, so we can tap into that as far as display in real time what their menu items are.
Wow. If
they've got any specials or deals, obviously we want to show where they're located. But the consumer can really jump in and jump out and look and find what they're looking for. So, if they want to go in and find something, they can.
Right. Now, you were mainly THC dispensaries, but here I've been noticing a lot of texts from you, because I subscribe to Leafbuyer.
Yep.
That there's a lot of CBD going on.
Yeah, and that's if you kind of go back to the home page, I'll kind of show you what we're talking about. So we're actually in talks right now. We have a letter of intent out, and we are a publicly traded company, so I have to be a little careful on what I say today. But we do have a letter of intent out with CBDIO. That's something where, as like I said, as this company and business grows, there's a lot of opportunity that, CBD is linked to into the cannabis world. So, and we've had people asking, and we get people all the time that call our office and say, what's this CBD? Where can I get some, right? And these might be people who, they're not maybe interested in the THC side of this, but they're wanting, either the pain medication side of it, or just the ability to know where they can go to get that. So that's why we when we met the founders of CBDIO, we saw an opportunity there that, we started advertising and promoting a lot of CBD stores. And this was just another avenue for us to allow us to expand, to say, listen, not only can you put your information on our site in front of the consumer, but now we have an avenue that we can put them in front of the buyers. Because it's a hot market right now. So really, at the end of the day, when the consumers want something, we try to deliver. And that's kind of what has evolved and has allowed us to take the direction we has. But at the end of the day, the site is just kind of the front piece. But as I was saying before, there's so much more to it, because we can't just rely on the site. You have to have the apps, you have to have the texting capability, you have to have obviously a trade show if you're working with the CBD companies, because they have all kinds of needs that they want to get in front of, and we want to be able to kind of be that one-stop shop where we can help them get in front of the cannabis consumer.
Right.
So
as far as information goes, when you go over to your strains, your blog information, you guys have gone above and beyond on that. Can you tell us a little bit?
On the strains or the blogs?
On the blogs, on the information.
Sure. So information is a big part of what we do. Obviously, consumers are always looking for more information. It's one of those things that, we wanted to just not be a place where if you're looking for product, we have that side of the business and you can go there and look. But we also understood that there's a lot of people who want to know what's going on in the industry. Right. So we kind of have become an aggregate, and we've worked with partners. I know we're looking at working with you guys to provide some content on our site, but we really want to make sure that the consumer kind of has an outlet or a way to kind of learn about what's going on in the industry and
Right.
and in your market or not. So
Well, and you want to be, we can't give medical advice. We can't even say our stuff works.
Right.
We can show you our wonderful reviews, but to be able to guide somebody to good information that's going to help them make, wellness choices, for themselves.
Right. I mean, we have people who call us up and they don't know what a concentrate is.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what is a concentrate. How they don't know what wax is. They don't know what oil is.
Right.
To them it's foreign. So we try to write topics and create topics and content that kind of answer those questions. Obviously, it provides consumer benefit,
Mm-hmm.
but it also helps attract more people to our site because you've got articles out there that people are searching for, and we want to make sure that we can provide them that information. And on top of that, there's a great portal for them to shop in a
Right.
sense online.
It's like when information and solutions. Last year I was just shocked that we were there at the legislative capitol, and we had a legislator go, "Oh, well, I just don't think a child needs to smoke a joint." And it just completely over my head.
Right.
But it's that type of person that knows absolutely nothing.
Correct.
I need a site where I can go, well, look, let's find out about transdermals. Let's find out about sublinguals. Let's find out about, how the different ways your body can take this in. It's not just smoking.
Right.
There's so
exactly.
many other products.
There's all the stories about, the Charlotte's Web and those
Mm-hmm.
kinds of stories that, if people don't know the industry, it's just all about, somebody getting high.
Right.
That's all they hear. So
That's you guys doing Spliff Busters.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I've watched him, and I just didn't even just register with me.
Yeah.
Out of
Max is, I think, a lot of him.
everybody
smart
knows
guy.
Max Montrose.
Yes, indeed.
He's taught a lot of people about terpenes and cannabis in general.
and
So
that
you've
is
got
the
a
thing,
lot of cool stuff on here.
Yeah, and that is the thing. That's why we do rely on partners is to give them that outlet to kind of promote what they want to talk about, right?
Right.
With and again, we do have to be very careful. We can't give medical advice. We don't want to do any of that because that's something that's left to the experts. But an informational side to the site was something that we added a couple of years ago, and it's kind of grown into this. And we also have Leafbuyer TV. So if we're at an event, for instance, we're going to be at HempFest in August here. We then can provide and show people the live event, or we can someone can watch it later on and see what we're doing. So
Right. That's what we like about our shows, too.
So you're publicly traded. When did you start the company?
we started the company in 2014.
And you had some capital because previous business adventures.
Yeah, and
in
actually,
life?
we the three founders. There's myself, Mike, and Kurt. We basically self-funded the company, right? So we started very mean and lean. Built the site. We, first of all, all three partners. We didn't take a salary for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who has a startup, they don't understand the sacrifices that you have to make. I mean, there was downsizing of homes and to make this work and leaving careers. I walked away from a career and you kind of get into it going, okay, well, we're going to have to self-fund this and do this. We started the company, built it up, and then got to a point where we just got to a point where we got to a point where we said, okay, we can't really expand anymore outside of Colorado.
Yeah.
Because to go into 7 or 8 markets simultaneously is going to require capital, right? And you have to do it in a quicker manner than just starting one market and going from there. So that's why we met a gentleman who wanted to invest in us. And we talked about it, the kind of the pros and cons, and we looked at why we might want to go the public route. And it is a great source or a great way to raise capital to fuel expansion, really, at the end of the day. So that was kind of the why we looked at going and doing that. So
So you did it all at one.
all
big
at one
raise.
time. No, it wasn't all at one time. It's one of those things. You don't want to go raise a bunch of capital and not have a plan for it, right? So what we did was, we went public. We wanted to make sure we had a plan how we're going to use this. Second is if we were going to do any kind of acquisition, we wanted to have that target kind of set and lined up, because when you're raising money, they want to know what you're going to use it for, and you don't really want to raise money just to raise money, right? Because without a use for it, because there's always a pro and a con to raising money. When you raise money, there's a little bit of dilution in your stock, but hopefully that you can overcome that by using that money to grow the company. And so it's a very delicate balance of when to raise money and when you have the need. So
I hear that.
So how do you feel about this delivery bill coming up? Is that going to affect you at all?
That's something we actually talked about a couple of years, and that was why we kind of looked at making a purchase of some technology called Green Light. In different markets, everyone's treating the laws differently. For instance, California allows delivery. Right. So we see that it's going to become something in the future. So we've invested in that technology to allow, if the state passes it, to allow someone to, in a sense, use our platform to, in a sense, place an order and then have it delivered to them.
Right.
So yeah, it's an evolution, and we don't know how the story's going to end, because it's again, every state is treated differently. So you kind of have to know. You kind of have to have a sense of where do we think the direction is going. And,
Right.
California's allowing it. Some states don't allow it, but we have to kind of build the technology for those who can. And obviously those in the states that don't allow it, we just would not, roll that feature out. So,
Well, even in Colorado, I was in a meeting last night, and they were talking about different municipalities may say no delivery in this county or in this town, which is going to really make it hard if you're in there and you're
Right.
a patient, and as a patient and advocate for patient communities, I'm all for it.
gotcha.
You
And I did want to make a clarification, because the note just got handed to me. So I was kind of talking about a lot of different things. I had said that our CTO Mike had started Weed Maps. He did not start Weed Maps. He started MapQuest.
Which is even cooler.
Yeah, sorry. Sometimes I tell the story, and I was talking about Weed Maps. They're similar to us, but yeah, he did not start Weed Maps. He started MapQuest. For the clarification, he was one of the founding developers on that.
Did he start anything else? That seems like these original founders often dabble in several different industries,
right?
Like some of those old MapQuest types.
Yeah, when we met Mike, he was one of the founding developers of MapQuest. So when MapQuest first started, he was one of the first developers to start working on that. We had met him through a friend, and it was one of those things where the site itself. I don't think cannabis attracted him to us. It was more about the way the site was designed, the database-driven part of it, which was very similar to what MapQuest did, with some extra things. And so I think that's what excited him more about, that it's the cannabis market. So
no rocket ships or anything.
No rocket ships.
What, tell us some of the things that you've spent money on marketing. Let me rephrase that question. What are the types of things that you've spent marketing dollars on over the years? Gotcha.
Well, that's a big thing, because there's a lot of marketing that we do. So, as a sales and marketing company, that's one of those things where you have to be strategic about it. So, the first thing we look at from a marketing standpoint is, if we're going to spend money, what is the goal, and who is the target? Because you can spend money on anything. For instance, you could buy a billboard, but what is the purpose? Is it to bring awareness? Is it to drive more traffic to your website? And so you got to kind of figure out what we want to do. So we've actually partnered with, I believe it's up to 10 other cannabis-related websites. And then what we do is we put basically a piece of technology on their section. Now, we don't just pick any random site. We'll pick sites that have cannabis consumers going to that page. So for example, we do partner with a Westward, for instance. So they have a marijuana section on their site, and when you go on there, there is a piece of our technology that sits on their site, and what that does is any dispensaries or clients that put deals or specials or offers up on our site, they feed that into that mechanism, and then the consumer can kind of, in a sense, shop on there. And then there is a link back to our site, so that it kind of provides two ways to market, right? It gets our customers or our clients information to the consumers, which is what they're paying us for. But then it also allows links for people to come to our site if they would like to go a little in depth and find out a little bit more about that. So that's been a great program that we've done. And like I said, we're up to roughly 10 other cannabis sites, which puts us at about over 10 million cannabis consumers that we can reach nationwide. Other things we've done, we've done the billboards. We just recently launched in, Oklahoma. So we did some billboards there. Sometimes, you kind of have a strategy where, you kind of want to let everyone know that you're in there in the market. And then you kind of go to more of the targeted type of advertisement, right? It could be print. Could be a print magazines that are left in the shops where we would do that, but really it's all comes down to targeting. We want to reach a targeted audience. But yeah, I mean, you name it, we've probably done it, with the exception of anything you can't do versus like TV commercials, that kind of thing. But again, that's general audience, and we want to make sure that things that we're doing we can measure, we can track, and we can target a consumer. So.
I'd like to do a banner that's towed behind an airplane sometime.
Yep,
that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, we recently opened up an office in Los Angeles, and I was out there for 2 months getting that office up and running. And it's funny. Some of the dispensaries had biplanes running along the beach, buying big billboards. Now, the problem with that is it's casting a wide net. Right, and they're very expensive. So you have to have, obviously at some point you have to have the revenue to actually sustain that long term. So, but yeah, it's people will try anything, especially in this industry, what they can do. So,
yeah.
Well, and the internet, that is just so exciting. I remember years ago I taught a class on new businesses, and one of the things was, if you don't have a website, well, then you're not in business.
Right. That's how it was in the 90s, and when we started getting into 2000.
And it was like pulling people, through the mud to get them to realize the importance of it. And now, if we were out and, we're hungry, what are we going to eat? Well, we'd go into the maps and see what was close by.
Right.
So it's all at our fingertips. So it's finding ways to, as a company, be at that fingertip. And
right. It is, and it's like I was saying before we started the interview today, was that 30 years ago there was 3 or 4 TV stations, you had a newspaper, and that's pretty much it, and that's what people went to. Now there are literally hundreds of thousands of ways for you to reach the consumer.
Right.
That's why we don't focus on just one thing. We focus on the site. We focus on apps. We focus on text messaging,
right.
that kind of thing. We've expanded our business to allow people to, not only attract a new customer, but actually help them retain it through.
Well, people have unplugged from their cable system, and they're not watching the cable TV and the TV
right.
ads and stuff for a lot of them. You walk into most houses now and they've got YouTube on, or they've bought into an internet site.
It's all about the phone, right? I mean, they live. I've got kids my age, and you can't get them away from these things. So how do you use this to get in front of them? So.
Right.
We know that's as a technology company, we know that we have to continue to evolve to provide more tools for our customers to get to the consumer. But that's a big part of it. Right?
Well, and there's a lot of concern with cannabis companies, especially CBD companies. I don't want too much attention. I don't want to be shut down.
Right.
How does Leafbuyer look at safeguards for those kind of concerns?
For the
first, let's say that somebody is afraid of losing their Facebook, Oh, if I put too much stuff up, I might lose my Facebook or my banking. Or,
Right. Well, unfortunately, it's the environment we're in. The couple of things that I've learned, that if you do have a Facebook page or you do have things like that, is make sure it's very generic. Don't put pricing up there. Don't make like you're selling something up there, right? Because I think that's kind of what gets, in my experience, that's what gets people shut down. If it's more of just, it's kind of more of a social thing, you're kind of, talking about the product, I think they kind of, pretty much, the Facebooks and the Instagrams kind of leave you alone. But if you start using it as a way to sell or promote or really push a business, that's when they start getting, I think, a little funny. And unfortunately, it's kind of the plug gets pulled and you don't know why.
Right.
And, but as far as, our site, we work with licensed shops, everything is above board. There's, we don't take any transactions on the site. We can't, that's illegal, but it's basically a place where people can go and shop and see what they could get. And then they have to go to the shop to actually make the purchase. So, at the end of the day, there are restrictions, which in a sense kind of sometimes helps us because it gives, a dispensary a way to, reach out to us and say, hey, can you help us reach the consumer?
Right.
That kind of thing. Because, I don't know if you guys walk around some of these cities, in Seattle or even Denver. I mean, there's dispensaries upon dispensaries upon dispensaries, and there's a lot of competition. And so we have a way for us to not only bring you new customers, but we also have a way to help you retain them through our texting loyalty program. So,
and that's what's important. You can get somebody to buy something one time, but it's getting that return customer and keeping them committed to you. And
correct. So
good deal.
How big do you think you're gonna? Well, this might be a question you can't answer.
Right.
How big do you think you're gonna get Leafbuyer before you do something else, like retire?
Retire. That is a tough question. I mean, the plan is to, we can do business in every legal state that offers it, whether it's medical or recreational, and we're built. That's what we're built for. And, as you can see, even with CBDIO that you had up on the screen behind us, that's an acquisition that, again, is a way for us to expand into other avenues. If you think about it, it's all advertising, right? It's just, what are we using? Are we using a website? Are we using an app? Are we using a trade show? I've talked to CBD companies who do business with us on our site. Well, we really didn't have a way to get them in front of the buyers. Now we do. So now we have an ability to, offer that as a service for them if they want. So that, obviously grows our company, allows us to do more things. But it's the question of how big do we want to get? There's no way I could even answer that. So
it sounds like you're waiting for that next date, and then you can go open up. And where are you all now?
So right now we're in, I want to say the latest is we're in 11 states. We just opened up an office in California. So that's been open for 2 months now. We will tend to put offices in markets that are large markets. Obviously LA, cannabis capital of the world, if you want, as far as the sheer size of it, makes sense to have one there. Denver is where we started. That's where our headquarters are. But any other markets that seem to flourish or grow and it makes sense to put someone there or an office, then we would do that, because this industry is, it's very, people want to know who they're doing business with. And so that's why we have consumers that, or sales reps that can go out and knock on doors and meet the businesses.
Meet the businesses.
I'm excited about Oklahoma. Like you said that you're running billboards there now. I haven't been to Oklahoma since they passed 788, but everything I've been seeing and hearing out of there, it looks like a booming industry. It looks like it's, I don't know, in some ways, well, in many ways, it already has put Colorado to shame as far as like patients' rights and stuff. And the number of people they've got signed up for that program and the number of licenses that they've issued, it's hopefully it won't work out like the Dust Bowl. But
Yeah, it kind of came on in a big way. I mean, it was, if you compare, Oklahoma to say, Nevada, there's been kind of a slow rollout. Oklahoma, they came in with a splash, and I think 1,000 licenses. I think I've out there. So, we have reps in that market as well, and it's a booming market, but a lot of competition. Yeah, I mean, it's they're on the scene, and if you compare that to Colorado, I mean, they've got more licenses there than they do in Colorado. So wow. It's a big market.
I know they're really excited at all the advocates and what have you, the different pages. Yep. And you just think of how that state has suffered, economically. Yeah. And it's, if you're not a farmer or whatever, this could be something that really turn the state around, not just for cannabis, but what I've seen coming from Louisiana to Colorado is infrastructure within the state. Mm-hmm. And what a wealthy state this is. Right. Parks in all the neighborhoods. You don't see that in other states.
Right.
And so I'm hoping it does that kind of growth for the state of Oklahoma as well.
Yeah.
That it shines on all levels.
Yeah, even
or the money in the schools and the reservations.
Right. And it's interesting to see how different states view and how they roll it out. Right. You've got opponents, you've got proponents of it, and so it's always that battle of how do you want to do this. I think Colorado had a really good plan, where they allowed the medical to kind of transition into the recreational side. These were people who were already running this business. They didn't have to start from scratch. You have other market or other states who take a different philosophy and say, hey, let's start from scratch.
Right.
And there's challenges with both of them, but I think Colorado did it right with the allowing of to make sure that we're dealing with legal shops, that we're dealing with business owners, the people who are in it for the right reasons, not just I want to be in it for 6 months, make a bunch of money, and then be gone.
Right.
So
I'd like to see you pull that off. 6 months,
yeah,
make a bunch of money. Yeah. It takes longer than that.
Yes. And it's harder on our bodies because we count canna years, right? Every year is like 10 years in the cannabis industry.
That's right.
So how do you see the industry changing?
Like I said, I think the industry is going to, I've already seen it in the last 5 years where, you're getting more business professionals in. Mm-hmm. They're running it like a business because, again, it's a difficult business. This, I know when people see on the news, they see a big lines, they think, wow, that dispensary or whatever, that shop, they're making tons of money. And if people really understood the behind the scenes on this, you have to be dotting your I's, crossing your T's. You have to be watching your dollars and making sure you're running an efficient business because, the taxes, they're not treated like a regular business. We didn't talk about the banking laws. The banking laws limit a lot of things for the industry. So there's a lot of challenges running a dispensary. I can say there's a lot easier ways to make money than owning a dispensary, right? And if you ask any dispensary owner, they'll tell you the same thing. Mm-hmm. But what the change has happened is I'm starting to see more business savvy type of people looking at it from more of an operational standpoint and going, how can we make this more efficient? That kind of thing. Because, growing 100 plants, in the back and selling them up front, that's not something where you're going to be able to compete with, right, some of the bigger shops. So, you just have the changes that I've seen in every market is, getting more of that business savvy person in there that you're dealing with. Because we still run into people who, when we talk to them, the first question is, why do I need to market? I don't know why I need to market.
But
right?
You get that in any industry.
You do, but in this industry, there are shops where you come up and they'll say, listen, I don't need any more business. And that maybe that's true at that particular point. Mm-hmm. But, when I look down the street and I see another shop there and I see one down the shop from them, it's just a matter of time of that business might not come to you anymore, just kind of walking down the street. You have to be proactive to reach out to let people know who you are and what you do. And then once you bring that new customer in, be able to retain that customer so that they can keep coming back. That's how you're going to build a successful business. So,
Right.
Do you know any jokes?
do I know any jokes? I do. My 14-year-old gave me some jokes, but I don't know if it'd be appropriate for the show.
Try us. There's only one way to find out.
No, I'm not going to bring that one. I don't want that one out there. And I don't want to embarrass myself.
Nobody
There
knows
you
any
go.
jokes that they can tell.
So how do you feel about Sasquatch and aliens?
Yeah. Sasquatch
Sasquatch and aliens.
and aliens.
How do I feel about those? Sasquatch and aliens. Well, when I was running, when I went on a camping trip, I went running through the woods and somebody said there's Sasquatch. So I'm assuming they were referring to me. And aliens, I know there's this whole Area 51 deal going on now. I kind of catch it here and there, but I'm entrenched in the business. But
I think that when they go to raid Area 51, the Air Force should put on the best air show of all time and blow these people's minds, and also fly the UFOs around because we know you got them. We know you got them. But just show everybody. That's what they want to see. They won't have to run onto the base. Maybe they could even just promise an air show at Nellis and fly the UFOs around there, and everybody could stay in Vegas and have a way better than camping out in the desert. And getting shot at.
Yeah, that sounds miserable.
They could just show us one of the UFOs. I think that would satisfy people.
Either that or incite just an amazing hunger for everybody wanting to know more,
Right.
which is probably what would happen. It's probably why they're not doing it, because it would give us a bite. We were wanting the whole meal.
right.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start getting us. Are you still on a time crunch? I was setting this up when you guys were talking about that. Do we have to get you out of here early?
Well, question. I mean, 58 minutes because I do have to get back. Trying to get back by 3.
Okay. We're coming on 42.
So we are doing good.
Yeah.
Are you finding, like states like Oklahoma, as more and more legalized, it's easier for your business to just come in? Is it getting easier for you to go into different states now?
It is. I mean, we have the infrastructure already built in the company, so now it's just deploying the sales reps to work in those markets. So, when you've built a system that or a company that works in one market, that was the other thing is how do you scale it into other markets? So,
Right.
if you can find good sales reps, you're going to do well in those markets.
Right.
So.
Well, and keeping them motivated and what have you and excited isn't always the easiest job to do when you have sales reps.
It's not, right? And it's not like you just knock on doors and people want to do business with you,
Right.
So you have to kind of explain what you do, why it's beneficial for them to do business with us, so that they understand. Because again, it's people understand traditional marketing, right? They understand billboards, that kind of thing. But are there companies out there that can help us target specific cannabis consumers, right? So if there's no waste, you know exactly who you're talking to. These are people who are already interested in using this product.
Right.
And then from us, we always have to figure out how do we get new people in? How do we get, people who, like you said, are interested in CBD and don't know anything about it? Well, that's where the news and information side of our site is beneficial, because then people can go there and we're getting new people to the site that are just learning about what is this cannabis thing.
Sorry, I'm just clicking through your website here. You got stuff.
He does. He really, it's a good website.
You got an app, you send out text, emails.
We do
that?
emails, blogs, we do, people can sign up on our network, and then we have different ways of communicating. So at the end of the day, you've got all these products. What do they do? Well, it's all communication. It's all about, for instance, if somebody if their goal is to just get clicks to their website, we can do banner ads for that, right? If somebody's looking to drive more business, well, you might want to do the listing on our site. If somebody's looking for maybe a little bit of SEO boost, doing things like content, linking to our site, linking to their site, that kind of thing, creating that kind of partnership, that helps that. So it really just depends what your goals are. Because not everybody, it's not always just, I want people to come to my store, a lot of it is, for brands, for instance, they're a little different, right? Mm-hmm. But they want their brand known. The consumers want, to know who the new brands are. And it's, there's a lot of great brands where people don't, how do you let people know if you're launching a new CBD line or whatever brand you have? How do you let people know that this is a brand that you guys should try?
Right.
And then the other part is how do you get distribution on that kind of thing? So.
Well, and a lot of new businesses, they don't even know to ask those questions. They don't know what they need to do.
Right.
Right. They come up with this fabulous product and it's great, but they don't know what to do. That's not their expertise of how to get it in the market.
You said that you were a soccer dad. Is that right?
Well, that was I don't know if I said I was a soccer dad. I know when we did a press release at one point, somebody kind of had said that, a couple of soccer dads started the company. Yeah. And, I think that was just really meant to say, sports dads in general, we weren't, I didn't come from the cannabis industry. I didn't own a dispensary, that kind of thing. It was just something, as I told earlier before, that we kind of saw as an opportunity. But yeah, I mean, there's been stories where I've, visited dispensaries and, you just kind of smell like cannabis after you leave there.
That's exactly what I was.
And then, and then I go to a basketball game that night and I'm sitting in the crowd cheering and people are looking at me because I just smell and reek of cannabis because I was in a grow, right? Visiting a client. So, it's just one of those things where, and it's funny because that used to happen a lot more, but I think because it's so acceptable now, like, I don't think people give, at least here in Colorado, I don't think people even give thoughts. I mean, you walk down the street right now and you smell cannabis, you're just like, it's just another smell. Whereas maybe 5 years ago, everyone's looking around going, oh my God, somebody's doing something illegal, right? Yeah. It's just, it's kind of a cool thing where nobody really gives it two thoughts anymore. So
I still have a bunch of t-shirts that I won't wear to my kids' school, but in fact, most of my t-shirt collection, I think, has kind of transitioned over to cannabis now. I've been doing it long enough that it's hard to find something that doesn't.
I do have a funny story about that. My son, we get little tchotchkes and stuff from some of our clients, and we give them some of our tchotchkes. And we had one of those Yeti drink things, and it had the dispensary's logo on it. And so, I just kind of didn't even think about it. And my son wanted to take it and put it in his lunch pail and took it to school and, and of course got it taken away. And,
whoops.
And so we were just like, you didn't even think about it, but it was just, he had soda in it or something like that. Right. But they're like, you can't have that in school. So it was kind of a funny story. So
that's awesome.
Well, as an ex-news guy, I want to ask you, we try so hard to work with the channel stations and, trying to get them to change their terminology and stop calling it weed or pod or, and any advice for us on that as an ex-TV guy?
I think the only thing is just keep reinforcing cannabis, if that's how you want to portray it. You're right, weed, pot,
it's very derogatory.
Right.
I call it weed all the time.
Well, it's the difference between us talking about it and
that's our word. You call it cannabis.
Yeah, and it is one of those things because there is there's the culture of it, and then there's a whole bunch of new people who are using this, right? Mm-hmm. And you kind of look at the liquor industry, right? And you kind of look at when things first started, what they called things and how it's kind of evolved. So I think it's just really at the end of the day, it's more about, if you give interviews, if you are working with the media, use the term cannabis. You keep reiterating the word cannabis if that's how you want to portray it, then they'll start using that term as well. So
right. I think the news story that got me was they were talking about autism parents going to pot shops. First of all, if it's an autism parent, that means that child's a medical marijuana. Right. In putting pot shop on it, it doesn't fit with the situation.
Right. I mean, you don't. I mean, the liquor industry, you wouldn't call wine the booze, right? Booze, that's kind of a
Hooch.
Those are things where it's kind of evolved. People don't call it anymore, but it's really about again, if you're giving interviews or you're doing things like that, call dispensaries. Call if it's a collective, call it a collective. If it's cannabis, call it cannabis. That, and using those terms when describing it would be your best option. So.
Yeah, well, we're definitely pushing them in that direction. So
I want to remind people again that we're going to be in Oklahoma at the Oklahoma Cannabis Expo, October 18th through 20th.
Yes.
I'm going to do a good job of promoting this now. Are you going to it?
I want to check. I believe we are going to that. I know we're in. We're also doing Seattle Hemp Fest in August. So I believe we are at this one too. When the events come up, the marketing team schedules that all out.
Yeah.
But I do believe we are at this one as well. So we'll see you down there as well.
And if you want to do something fun this month and catch up with us, we will be at Healthy Denver this month. We had them on last week.
All right.
When is that again?
So
Do you know?
it's on the 24th
24th
of August.
of August. So it's coming up.
It is coming up.
We will not be in NASCAR, it looks like. But that story is still developing. But congrats to Bobby Dale Earnhardt on. He got picked up for sponsorship for the last 4 races of the season in the Xfinity Series. And so good on Bobby that finally. It's going to be good to see him behind the wheel.
It is good to.
But it's not over, NASCAR.
We're not done with you.
We're not done. We're just resting.
There you go.
Hence the cars here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Very, very proud of.
One of these days, it's gonna work out.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and doing
Yeah.
this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And sharing with your viewers, a little information about Leafbuyer and what we do. So
I'm excited to do a lot more with you.
yeah. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Julie, for setting this up. Thank you for joining us. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And oh wait, I'm gonna be smart and get this music going.
You go.
So I play the little outro clip. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna be smart. So yeah, thanks for joining everybody. As always, I'm Travis Lippert, reminding you if you don't get hemp here, get hemp somewhere.